Hello, today I'm going to be talking about how you can make a semi-abstract or abstract seascape. Just using a bundle of things. I've just gathered together some scraps here. It's a great way of using up all your blues and greys and beige scraps. And very easily this can be turned into a seascape. So as with all my pieces, I've cut a piece of linen and I've marked on my square by putting down my mount and drawing round it. And now I am just going to grab some pieces from here and just very randomly just lay them down. I'm just going to spray them first, and again as usual using 505 spray, very light spray, and just start to lay it down. I'm just going to pop that over there. That's a bit of old bandage, and that'll give me a bit of base. And then it's just a case of sort of cutting pieces very much at random. It doesn't have to be very precise. This is where you can really just go with the flow and not have to worry too much about what you've got. You're not following a pattern, you're not trying to create lovely hills or a beautiful beach or anything like that. You can just go along with this just as it is, cutting off any bits as you go. Let's see what else we've got here. It's quite fun doing this. It's a good way of using up all your bits and pieces, and you don't really know. This is a little bit of jean that I've cut the edge, and when I open that up, that has frayed slightly, so that will look lovely. You don't know what you're going to end up with. You're just working on it very, very gradually. You keep offering up that over the top to make sure that you're happy with what you're producing. Let's see what else we've got here. That's a nice little bit. And we're just offering these pieces up just very gradually. Lovely bits of lace as well, which are very pretty. They're a bit crumpled, if they're a bit folded, that doesn't really matter. Might just put that like that there. And we can cut this at an angle. It's very much about colour and looking at colours that go together. When I selected the fabrics to do this, I decided that what I wanted to do was to actually get some fabrics that all complemented one another and that actually went together. So I've gone for quite pale fabrics, but having said that, I'm just going to put in a little bit of sari silk now, and that's going to have a slightly darker colour to it. Just adds a little bit of interest and just gives a little bit of depth, else it can all look a little bit too pale. So I'm just got these bits of sari silk here and just opening them up, which can be a bit of a fiddle. Just bringing that there like that. Yep, that's coming on nicely. What else have I got here? Here we are. And don't forget, when you're spraying, you can manipulate things so that they actually look a little bit more like waves, you can get straight lined pieces of fabric and just manipulate them a little bit. Another thing I like to use is this cheesecloth fabric, which is amazing for just bringing that little sort of feel of the sea to things. What else have we got here? Got all sorts. Just little scraps, even like that. Just pull off the rough edges. But you don't need to cut them. Some rough edges are quite nice to actually just sort of add a bit of detail in. There, as you can see. And we'll just cut some of this. I'll have another piece of this cheesecloth. Just cut along here. That'll just blend in the top with the bottom somewhat. And then along the bottom, just going to pull off some of this. I think what I'm going to do is just lift up that and tuck that bit underneath there, and then just pop that down. This lovely net is also very useful. Just trim that off, and although it won't stay in place unless you spray it, once you spray it you can actually manipulate this quite well. It just gives that little bit of a sea feel to it. Might get another piece of this. I love using this. This is actually the nylon mesh fabric that you get on shower puffs, and obviously they come in different colours, and it is really useful for this sort of thing. Maybe a bit along there, like that. And then just before I'm going to stitch, let's have a look, see what else I've got here. Here we are. So this is mulberry bark, and this is fantastic stuff for producing waves and that sort of thing. So again, just going to give that a little spray and just see where I can offer that up. So along there, get rid of that straight line, which is fabulous. Just like that. Just trim off any long edges here. Then when I offer that up here, as you can see, we've got the makings of a semi-abstract seascape. So where we go from here is set up your machine. I've got clear nylon thread in mine, but if you had a very pale blue, that would work just as well. The idea is to just secure it without actually seeing any of the stitches. And then we are going to just make a start. I'm just going to pull this forward so that you can see. And as usual, go down and up with the thread and pull it through. And just tuck that behind. Pop your needle down like that. Just want to make sure that you can see this properly. and then we just make a start just stitching. So you can stitch very randomly. It's one of those times where you don't actually need to do straight lines, so if you wiggle you won't see it, but it won't matter. Even if you're using a pale blue thread, it won't matter if you see it. You're just trying to secure down these pieces. Obviously, you know, the sea and the waves have got an unevenness about them, so the more you actually wiggle around, the more it just adds to that feeling of a seascape and the waves washing in on the tide. This is a great thing to do if you haven't got much experience of free motion, because to be honest you can't really go wrong. You can't really feel that you've stitched in the wrong place. Away and cut those. So just cut off any threads we've got here. As you can see, when I pop that on the top, that is starting to look quite nice. So that didn't take very long. I did actually choose all my fabrics in advance. So what you would need to do now is then think about embellishments to go on. I have here a big bag of rusty washers, which I quite like to use on seascapes. So let's have a look and see what I can find. So you could use something like that, or a ring like this, and then maybe some buttons. And then also what I would do, I can just tip this to show you, what I would also do is incorporate little tiny seed beads, sequins, anything that just adds to the detail, gives that beach feel, gives you that feeling that you've got sort of shells or little tiny pebbles or little treasures that you've found. Sometimes I can always put little bits of sea glass in as well, which is quite nice. And then once you've got all that done, it really starts to feel like it's representing the sea. So I'm going to carry on now and add some embellishments to it to finish this piece off. But that is basically how you go about creating an abstract seascape. Please do have a go. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you've enjoyed watching. I'll see you next time.